Hello, welcome back. I'm Eric Kane. So I want to talk about She-Hulk. I reviewed the first 4 episodes, which I got screeners for before the show came out, and I haven't talked about it since. I haven't watched it since. Mainly that's because I didn't like it enough to keep watching it. As I said when I first talked about this show, it has its charms. I like the lead actor. I like the fourth wall breaking. That's kind of fun. It's kind of a new thing for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I don't like how heavy-handed the show is. In the first 4 episodes, there were so many portrayals of how shitty men are. Even the good guys are shitty. That it took an idea and it ran so far with it that idea ended up seeming ludicrous, right? So I think it's okay to make a show that highlights some toxic masculinity or whatever. That if that's what you're going for, there's a place for that, because obviously there are a lot of assholes out there, a lot of shitty people in general, men and women. But if you want to focus on that, okay, fine. You can do that by having one shitty male character, right? You can have one guy who's a complete prick, who has a role in the show that highlights this kind of toxic bullshit, right? But when you make every guy in the show, every single one, including the nice guys, including the guys that seem genuinely kind, and if you make all of them bad, if you make all of them scummy, if you make all of them callous, sexist, misogynistic pigs, you start to lose your point, because it's so absurdly over the top, right? There's something to be said for realism, plausibility. Sure, there's a lot of assholes out there, but unless you're the most unlucky person in the world, you've also probably met some good guys too. It would be like making a movie about a guy where every girl he meets is just ridiculously awful to him. I mean, I guess it could work, but it helps when you have some balance, right? It helps when there's a just like, okay, let's say there's a character who comes from a family where he's in an awful family. You need to have somebody he meets outside of the family who's decent, maybe a family that he creates from friends or something, so that you can balance that out. Because if everybody is just awful, then it's exhausting. For one thing, it's exhausting to watch. And that's how She-Hulk starts to feel. It's exhausting, because her boss is a jerk. The one guy in the whole show that I can think of that isn't in some way a shithead is her dopey lawyer coworker. Not the one that's refers to women as a woman as it, but like the guy that collects shoes. I don't know his name. He's nice, and he's also dumb. He's like the dumb blonde guy. So writing a strong character by making all the men assholes and stupid and sexist doesn't work. You can make I'll look at a show like, I don't know if you've seen this show. You should watch it though. It's got Alan Tudyk and he's brilliant. Resident Alien. Resident Alien is one of my favorite shows currently on the TV, and I'll make a video about it at some point. In that show, there are some very, very great female characters. These female characters are strong not because they are physically strong. They're strong not because they are always right. They're strong because they are real. They have their real personalities, flaws, strengths, shortcomings, including shortcomings that are based on love and on selflessness. Maybe they lie. They they lie to each other, but they also have each other's backs. I mean, you want to make a strong character, make them real. Even in a superhero show, make them real. I don't care if it's a man or a woman, an old person or a child. You have to make them real and believable for us to buy that they're strong. And the problem with Jennifer Walter, whatever, She-Hulk, is that she doesn't feel real enough. This whole show doesn't feel like it's never really establishing very real characters. When Daredevil enters the picture in the second to last episode, Matt Murdock, he feels so much more real than anyone else in this show. He has a way about him that feels more grounded. He's funny. He's down to earth. He seems genuine and he seems uncomfortable being in this show. I don't know what else to say. He seems just a little, there's a scene where he's eating dinner with her family and he seems uncomfortable. And I just feel like that's him in this show. He needs to be in a show that's just a little less cloying. So in the fifth through ninth episodes of this show, we get an episode where She-Hulk goes to a wedding. This is where I decided that the show is actually trying to make almost all of its characters really, really awful, including the female characters, because her friend who's getting married is terrible. She's a horrible person. This Tatiana chick who she goes to court with in the previous episode over the rights to the She-Hulk trademark, she's awful. All of the other bridesmaids at this wedding are awful. She's a pushover to everyone, and then she eventually gets drunk and starts flirting with a guy who seems really nice. At which point, I knew that this guy was going to be a bad guy because he was just too nice to be, he was too nice, too charming, too good looking. And turns out, yes, he was working with this group called Intelligentsia, which is basically like a troll forum for like reactionary sexists. And here's another area where this show really screws up, but I'll get to that in a second. So she begins this romance with this guy. They eventually sleep together, and then he ghosts her, and she's really, really upset about it. So she goes to the retreat that's run by the Abomination, played by Tim Roth, who's I enjoy his character in this show. He's one of the highlights. And there she ends up, there's no Wi-Fi, and she has to wait for a tow truck, and so she ends up going into his little healing circle with some other like D-list superheroes. And finally we get actually, male characters in the show who are portrayed as not terrible, but they're all jokes. There's Man Bull, and there's the Porcupine, and there's like this guy that's like a matador but doesn't want to admit it. And they help her work through her problems with this guy who's ghosted her. Because they infantilize her character also. Like, I get it. Like, if you go on a date and you have sex with someone and then they ghost you, that sucks. But this woman is what, 40 years old and a lawyer? Maybe she's not 40. I don't know. I can't tell the ages of people anymore. Sorry, I'm a little sick still. But she's obsessed for like days waiting for him to text her back. And it's like, you are a grown woman. Surely you can just get over it. You also have superpowers. Like, why are you worrying about boys so much? They make this superhero show about a strong, independent woman who's literally constantly worrying about boys, about men to date. And it's funny because they make her friend at the wedding sound patronizing because she's like, "Are you dating anybody?" And then when she's not, she's like, "I'm so sorry." But that's what the show is constantly saying. It's constantly saying if that she needs to be dating, like that her character is built around this need for human companionship, which I get. People need human companionship and shit, but I wouldn't want my life told that way. If I was a superhero, I certainly wouldn't want my superhero show to be built around like dating and all and that crap. Like, there's a place for romance, but to be sitting around obsessed on your phone worrying if someone is going to text you back when you have fucking super strength seems very, very like diminishing towards this character. Anyway, she works through her problems, and then we learn, surprise, that this guy is working with Intelligentsia, and they've got this whole plan to bring her down. Which is when she goes to this award ceremony for best female lawyer. Which again, the female lawyers are even at their own award ceremony are introduced in this very misogynistic way. Which, come on, guys. At a certain point, you just have to stop rubbing our noses in it. And when she's up there accepting her award, Intelligentsia plays like the scene of her having sex and like does all this other stuff, and she like smashes the wall. Then she has to go to jail because she's a danger, and all of this is terrible. It's just terrible. It's so stupid. It's a positioning like 8chan as the bad guys in this, and like it's just so fucking stupid. At the end, they have like a meeting of this intelligentsia group, which the good guys infiltrate, and this guy that's kind of been stalking her a little bit ends up being the leader of it. And it's like, okay, so this online group of anonymous trolls has a meetup that just happens to be, get this, at the Abomination's retreat. It's pretty bad. And the only redeeming factor, which I'm still kind of making my mind up about, is in the end, in the last episode, as she finds her way down to this intelligentsia gathering, and there's a big fight, and the Hulk shows up, and Tatiana bursts in, and she's like, wait a minute, hold on. What the hell is going on here? This doesn't make any sense. And she climbs out of her own show into like the Disney Plus app and like pops over into the real world, into the filming, like behind the sound stages and stuff in LA, and goes to find Kevin Feige. Am I Feige? Kevin Feige? I always want to say Feige, but I think I'm saying it wrong. Feige? Anyways, Kevin, the guy who runs all this MCU shit. So she goes to find him, and she goes to the writer's room where they're acting. They throw the writers under the bus, but eventually she finds Kevin, and he's a robot. So he's actually not a human at all. He's a robot, and they actually, and this, I wish this happened in a better show so I could appreciate it more. But they basically criticize the MCU's own formulaic process, how so many of its movies and shows end in the same way, with the same kind of showdown and the same kind of resolution. And I thought it's pretty clever to actually tackle your own formulas and go a little bit meta with this, and not only break the fourth wall, but break out of the fourth wall and criticize one of the MCU's big shortcomings. And then they end. They don't end there. She goes back into the show, and they end the way she wants it to, without the big showdown, without all this, without Hulk coming to save the day, and yada yada yada. For this, I give it some points for creativity and for self-reflection. But it comes at the end of a show that is so heavy-handed and so over the top in its attempt to take down toxic masculinity and to show boss girl badasses, that it undermines both those things. If you want to show a strong female character, you can do that, but you don't have to make everyone around her look weak and stupid. If you want to have a strong female character, you don't have to always put her in the boss girl box to make her strong. Just like if you want to have a strong male character, he doesn't always have to be a big, strong warrior or a gruff, grizzled, video game character. Like strong characters come in all shapes and sizes. Tyrion Lannister is a strong character, strong male character. In House of the Dragon, Rhaenyra is a strong female character, and she doesn't beat anybody up. And she faces many opponents who are very smart and very, very nefarious, and who can beat her at her own game. Being strong doesn't mean winning all the time. And it doesn't mean that you face a bunch of awful conflict all the time either. Sometimes being strong, is just doing right by people. So I have mixed feelings about She-Hulk. I think overall it is a failure. I think overall it fails to present a compelling reason for its own existence. The things I like about it, which are the fourth wall breaking and the meta stuff primarily, and Daredevil was cool, those things are not enough to hold it afloat. I like where they were going with some of those ideas, but I think in the end, I don't feel like this was a show that needed to be made in the first place. I binged all 5 of the episodes last night. I've been sick, and I woke up last night at like 1 a.m, and I'd been on cough medicine, and I woke up and had like a panic attack. And I went into the TV room, and I was like, I'm going to put on something to distract myself because I'm having this fucking panic attack. As my body felt wrong. I felt all off. I felt dizzy and vertigo. And I was like, should I call the fucking ambulance? And I put on She-Hulk instead. And She-Hulk calmed me down. So they had 2 points to House She-Hulk for that. But I ended up binging all 5 episodes I hadn't seen last night. So they're all fresh in my memory. And yeah, those are my thoughts on She-Hulk. What are your thoughts? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you would like to subscribe and like and all of that jazz to my channel, we are very nearly at 10,000. And that's just the beginning. So thank you for watching. Peace.